كفورا. عينا يشرب بها عباد الله يفجرونها تفجيرا. يوفون بالنذر ويخافون يوما كان شره مستطيرا. ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا. إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. إنا نخاف من ربنا يوما عبوسا قمطريرا. فوقاهم الله شر ذلك اليوم فوقاهم الله شر ذلك اليوم ولقاهم نضرة وسرورا. ولقاهم نضرة وسرورا وجزاهم بما صبروا جنة وحريرا. متكئين فيها على الأرائك لا يرون فيها شمسا ولا زمهريرا. ودانية عليهم ظلالها وذللت قطوفها تذليلا. ويطاف عليهم بآنية من فضة وأكواب كانت قواريرا. من فضة قدروها تقديرا. ويسقون فيها كأسا كان مزاجها زنجبيلا. عينا فيها تسمى سلسبيلا. ويطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون إذا رأيتهم حسبتهم لؤلؤا منثورا وإذا رأيت ثم رأيت نعيما وملكا كبيرا عاليهم ثياب سندس خضر واستبرق وحلوا أساور من فضة وسقاهم ربهم شرابا طهورا إن هذا كان لكم جزاء وكان سعيكم مشكورا إنا نحن نزلنا عليك القرآن تنزيلا فاصبر لحكم ربك ولا تطع منهم آثما أو كفورا واذكر اسم ربك بكرة وأصيلا ومن الليل فاسجد له وسبحه ليلا طويلا إن هؤلاء يحبون العاجلة ويذرون وراءهم يوما ثقيلا نحن خلقناهم وشددنا أسرهم وإذا شئنا بدلنا أمثالهم تبديلا إن هذه تذكرة فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه سبيلا وما تشاءون إلا أن يشاء الله إن الله كان عليما حكيما يدخل من يشاء في رحمته والظالمين أعد لهم عذابا أليما بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا أقسم بيوم القيامة ولا أقسم بالنفس اللوامة أيحسب الإنسان أن لن نجمع عظامه بلى قادرين على أن نسوي بنانه بل يريد الإنسان ليفجر أمامه يسأل أيان يوم القيامة فإذا برق البصر وخسف القمر وجمع الشمس والقمر يقول الإنسان يومئذ أين المفر كلا لا وزر إلى ربك يومئذ المستقر ينبأ الإنسان يومئذ بما قدم وأخر بل الإنسان على نفسه بصيرة ولو ألقى معاذيره لا تحرك به لسانك لتعجل به إن علينا جمعه وقرآنه فإذا قرأناه فاتبع قرآنه ثم إن علينا بيانه صدق الله مولانا العلي العظيم وصدق رسوله الصادق الأمين محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين الشاكرين الحامدين العابدين التائبين وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل
Bismillah. We'll make the announcements at the end because there are only angels here. Only farishtas are here.
I'll give a few minutes then, inshallah.
Yeah, you have time. You have time till 7:45, 46. Okay. You take your inshallah.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة على رسول الله وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه المنتجبين سيما بقية الله في الأرضين عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف صلوات على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وعجل فرجه. Dear brothers and sisters, inshallah we'll continue with our reading and reflections on Dua 44 of As-Sahifatu Sajjadiyah. Of course, a quick point that the 10th of the month of Ramadan, of course, coincides with the death anniversary of Lady Khadija Salamullah alayha. And it's appropriate for us to just send our respects, pay our respects, show appreciation for the role that she played in not just the early days of Islam, but really the preservation of Islam and the growth of Islam is due to the support that she lended. And alhamdulillah, the Saturday school that we had just this past week, we took a few minutes to share those appreciations. And we said a few lessons that we can take away from this great lady that should really serve for us as a model in our lives. And the reason why we speak this way is because we, of course, have accounts that speak of the four heavenly women. And Lady Khadija Salamullah alayha is identified as one of these four heavenly women, but also she's identified as a woman to be followed, to serve as a role model for the peoples. So I'll try to work this in, inshallah, into the discussion we have tonight. I just wanted to kind of make that point to say that we share the blessings of tonight's program, and we also ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to inspire the discussion that we're having tonight by the character and the person and the legacy of Lady Khadija Salamullah alayha. Risale salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Okay, so last night we were speaking about the relationships between the kin, right? And the strengthening of relationships through the medium of the month of Ramadan. The dua states, وَوَفِّقْنَا فِيهِ لِأَن نَصِلَ أَرْحَامَنَا بِالْبِرِّ وَالصِّلَةِ. Oh Allah, grant us the success in this month for us to tighten the bonds with our kin, with devotion and with acts of goodness and with gifts. So we spoke about the basic, kind of underlying attitude and philosophy that we should have with family, and we spent a little time speaking about the parents. A few closing points, and inshallah we'll transition to the relationship between the spouses briefly, and then we'll move to the neighbors. So we said last night that in Islam there is such an important emphasis placed on the functionality of the family, the strength and the bonds, the support amongst members of the family, that we're tasked to work with each other in our shortcomings, in our mistakes that we make, and to try and maximize the virtues that we have and try to minimize the vices that each and every one of us have. But specifically, we spoke about kind of the relationship we should have with our parents, and we stated that really the success in life is found in maintaining a strong relationship with the parents. Now, the strong relationship of support is not one, of course, that we said that completely dismisses the fact that there may be mistakes made, there may be injustices committed, there may be hardships that are endured, but at the same time, there is a formula that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designated for a successful life that is found in service to the parents. Some of the riwayat that we look at speaks about particulars, and I think it's good for us to start looking at some of the details that Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam provide and the Quran provides on how it is that we're supposed to kind of like establish those relationships. If you look at sources like Risalatul Huquq from, again, Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wasalam, speaks of, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, speaks of the rights of different people to each other, right? The right of the father, the right of the mother, the right of the brother, the right of the child, the right of the... All of these things are important for us to note. But even getting into some of those details can help give some definition to imagination of how we're supposed to be in relationship with one another. Here's an example. This is one that I always found quite interesting, and I think it's helpful to share. Narrated from Imam al-Qadim alayhi salatu wasalam, that he says, a man came to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and asked about the right of the father upon the child. Ma haqqul waladi ala waladihi. So what's the right of the father, or let's say that it's technically father, but we can maybe extend this to mother too, but in this particular context, it's the father. قال لا يسميه باسمه. So one of the things says for him not to call upon his father by his name. Now, maybe in our culture, especially today, it's odd for you not to call your father by his name. It's a sign of endearment, right? If your father's first name is like Ali, for the son to call his father Ali may be a sign of endearment. But in many cultures, that may be a sign of like disrespect. A term of endearment would be something like father, baba, something like that. So the instructions say, don't call your father by his first name. Again, it's definitely not saying don't have an intimate relationship. Don't address him in a way that would lead to some sort of disrespect. Okay, so maybe that's culturally determined. But whatever it is, there should be a form of communication between the child and the parent that shows the respect even in the way that they address one another. Now you look to the Quran, the same way is there. Like look to Luqman alayhi salam, the way he addresses his son. Ya bunayya, ya bunayya, ya bunayya. My dear son, my dear son, my dear son. Always using that title. He can say kid, bache, whatever the way that we use, that almost is like reinforcing the hierarchy. If I'm in charge, you're subservient to me. Maybe sometimes that's needed, right? But a basic mode of communication is one that the compassion is observed externally. So with the child, the way that they address the father, they address him in an endearing way and not in a way that is disrespectful. Not the way that he addresses his peers or his friends or his colleagues. وَلَا يَمْشِي بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ. For the son not to walk, whenever بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ you see means in front of. Quran always speaks about بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ. بَيْنَ literally means between the hands. Hand between the hand is what? In front of you. The son should not walk in front of the father. Now, maybe you all are walking in a group and there's not enough room, someone walks in front of the other. Again, the point is to be even respectful when you're walking with each other. Again, this can be culturally defined. In many cultures, to walk in front of another person is a sign of disrespect, right? The person who's the lead of the group, they should stand in front. You may see this especially across the genders, right? The man should walk in front and the woman should walk behind. If the woman walks in front of the man, in some cultures, people look and they start, they think things, they gossip, what's going on here? So same thing here. It's a sign of reverence that even when you're walking, if you're aware of that make sure that I'm not walking in a way, I'm not carrying myself in a way that also obscures the fact that I'm showing respect to the Father. When I enter a room, I enter a building, when I'm taking my seat, all these things that some of us may culturally know, elders especially was much more practiced, those are important things to preserve. Not, again, as a show of dominance or anything, but it's a sign of reverence. And in today's world where all of these hierarchies are being destroyed, everyone is the same, there's some good in that, right? But, kind of flattening the societal structure in many ways is also problematic. So in Islam it says also be wary of that. وَلَا يَجْلِسُ قَبْلَهُ. Just like I said, don't sit before he sits. Again, sign of respect. Like, in a majlis when you're sitting, in a gathering when you're sitting, there are some seats that are the respected seats. Like on a table, the one at the top of the table. It's a respect. You as a son should not just ignorantly go sit there and establish yourself and get comfortable. You should offer the best position. Let's say in prayer sometimes, I haven't observed here it being such a big deal, but sometimes people are sensitive towards, I like to stand in like this part of the row, or I like to stand in the first row, or whatever. It can again be a sign of respect that you can stand, especially if the person is an elder or a father. In Muslim majority countries, you'll see people are always excited to stand in the first row. Whether it's the regulars in certain masjids, people who are coming every day for the prayer. For them, they may create, establish a strong bond. That's my prayer spot. If I stand somewhere else, it kind of throws them off. Younger person sees that, it's okay, you go stand in the front. The blessing you're going to get from standing in the front, you'll be given in more because you've also made a moment happy. وَلَا يَسْتَسِبُّ لَهُ. And let him not be insulted by others. But first, you should not insult him. We take that for granted. No son should ever be in a position of insulting his father. But he should protect the father's honor, public image. Don't allow the father to be on the receiving end of an insult or disrespect. Which again means your bond should be so tight that you're basically aware of your father's affairs and he should feel comfortable sharing it with you. And if he finds himself in a difficult position like that, you should of course be quickly to his aid. Now, it doesn't mean that you should protect your father in a tribal way, especially when he's doing something that is incorrect. Right? Those are things that are culturally ingrained within us. What did you say to my father? And then after the fact that all the emotions have been exhausted, we figure out that what happened. It's a small trivial thing. Shouldn't make things bigger than they are, but basically, you should be aware to not allow your father to be on the receiving end of an insult. Okay. One more point, inshallah, we'll move on. How do we organize priorities in our lives and when it comes to serving the parents? This is also one of the challenging ones, especially when your parents become elderly, right? The circle of life, the cycle of life. When we're young, when a child is young, they require care, right? Because they cannot perform the tasks that are needed for them to live comfortably. Child needs to be fed, child needs to be changed, child needs to be put to sleep, child needs to be transported from one place to another, child needs to be entertained, all these things. When a person becomes elderly, they may not need all of the same things as a child does, but there are some basic things that they cannot do because they've aged. They may require help with transportation. They may require help with, personal hygiene. They may require help in just basic, watching over them. All those things are needed. So, especially in a moment like that, a person may say, this is very, tedious. It's cumbersome. I don't have time for these things. Now, I'm not to say that if your parents are in like a retirement home or elderly community or anything like that, it means you've abandoned them and you're a bad person and you should be ashamed of yourself. I'm not saying that. I'm not in a position to speak like that. Allah forgive me if I'm going to judge anyone else. The basic point is this. Just as your child should not feel like a burden when they're born, so too should your parents not feel like a burden when they're older. And even before they're older in a way that they can't kind of manage their own affairs, if they're doing things that have mannerisms that are, bothersome to you, still find ways to accommodate them, even if it's to your own, we call it, material detriment. A man came to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. He says, I'm really excited to go engage in the jihad. Now, he didn't come and say, I'm really excited to go work for like this good company. I'm not really excited to go on this vacation. He said, I really want to serve the society this way. But, I have an issue. First he said, I want to serve. The Prophet said, Bismillah, go serve. That's good. Faja'id fi sabilillah. That's really good. Thank you for telling me. I'm so proud to hear that. He says, I have a challenge, and the challenge is I have elderly parents. And those elderly parents have asked me to stay with them. The Prophet quickly changed his position. He said, stay with your parents. He said, stay with your parents, and if you're alive and they have passed and there's still an opportunity, then go. Almost delay the work that you want to do, the service you want to provide to humanity, delay it. Be at the service of your parents. If you die before you get the opportunity to go and serve, then Allah will reward you with the reward of mujahideen. So again, here we should have it at that level of providing service, maybe professional development, educational development, all of those things. But even the smaller things of just like our basic comforts. The prophetic instruction is the care for the parent is more valuable in the eyes of God than for you to, kind of acquire other things and then present them to God and say, look at what I've done. Because Allah is prioritizing your affairs for you. He says, sure, I know you want to go there and maybe you have great potential and there's great opportunity, but this is an obligation. This is a responsibility. This is what you have to care for. So care for this. That will be there. It'll either always be there, or if it's not there anymore, nothing will be lost from you. So sometimes the stress that we have, that if we don't strike while the iron is hot, the opportunity will pass and we won't. Allah is saying that's not true. I am the organizer of affairs. I am the one who makes opportunity happen. I am opportunity. So trust in the fact that you should prioritize your issues with your parents. Even to the point where a person wants to, there's a story from the great Marhum Sheikh Ansari. Sheikh Murtaza Ansari is one of the great scholars that we have, and he made he left a great legacy in the Islamic world as a whole, and especially for those who study in the seminary. His books and his lessons are still taught today in the advanced levels of studies, especially in jurisprudence. He had a great affinity for his mother. And he's like a Grand Marja, by the way. So think Grand Marja like some important politician, okay, in our context. Maybe not the president, but someone, busy. They have a full schedule from sunrise to sunset. They're just busy doing things. So there are cases where Sheikh Ansari comes, he has hundreds of students, he doesn't show up to class. And it's not normal for him not to do that. Students are concerned. Maybe, he's ill, maybe something. So they go to the house. They go to the house and they knock on the door and they say, is Sheikh Ansari there? And he comes, he says, yes, I'm home, I'm okay. I'm not coming to class today. Why? What's wrong? He says, my mother's asked me to stay home. So he's not a person that is very easily just going to, take a sick day. He has a lot of things, executive level. A lot of things rely on him. But when the mother comes and asks, please, today just stay with me, spend some time with me. It's hard for him to say, I'm a busy man, leave me alone, old woman. Occupy yourself somehow. I'll call one of your girlfriends to come and spend time with you. Oh, Mom, I'll stay with you, no problem. Now, I don't want you to get fired from your jobs because every day your mother says, stay home with me, you never go to work anymore. Of course, you're going to get laid off. It's not okay. But it's just that basic sign of kind of love and respect that you can extend from time to time when they want that. Okay, let's move on. So this is the parents. We say that's the kind of the master key, again, to success in life. And you couple this with the performance of salat, now you have two master keys. You have a few of these things, you're set in life. Let's move on. We said arham. Arham also includes, of course, the spouse, right? The spouse. And I'm going to focus more of my comments not on the service of the wife to the husband, because from, again, what I can observe, that's well represented. Not just in the tradition, but also in our presentations sometimes. When they speak about domestic issues, family issues, there's a lot of emphasis on for the wife to be in line with, accustomed with, attuned with, in service of the husband. Kind of like, your husband's working hard, don't give him a hard time, work with him, look past some of his shortcomings. These are all correct things, good things. But I'm not going to beat that drum tonight. First of all, because I can only see the men here, so it would be unfair. And because, it's only fair for us to present a balanced approach, I'm going to focus a little bit more on kind of the right attitude for a husband towards their spouse. Now, disclaimer, and my wife is here too. I'm learning these things. I make more mistakes than any of you. If I had just paid attention to some of these things, my life would be much better. Alhamdulillah, I'm learning. Inshallah, I can continue to learn. And it's never too late. So, first thing, if you all remember from those early times where we were nice and young and the beards were not, gray, that when you wanted to, marry your wife, in Islam, it's the man that initiates. It's the man that comes and makes this request. It's the man that comes and brings forward the proposal. I don't know what we do culturally, okay? Whatever we do culturally, but Islamically, it is a man that comes and gives this proposal. I would like for you to be my mom. Do you accept? If you remember the sigha, if you read it, or maybe the alim read it because you give him permission, that's what he did. When he read it, the sigha between the two parties himself, on your end, the man, he initiated, I propose, will you do this, this, and that? And then I accept. So, I apologize. It's the other way around. What am I saying? It's the other way around. It's the woman that comes and initiates the proposal, okay? So hold on. It's the woman that comes and initiates the proposal, which means this. Which means that she is supposed to have kind of a proper understanding of what she's getting herself into, right? She comes and makes this proposal, and the husband says, I accept these terms or I don't accept these terms. Okay. So we've accepted certain terms that are presented to us. Inshallah, we're all happy and we continue to be happy. Riwayat we have from Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam found in Al-Kafi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. A part of it, he states, فَدَارُوهُنَّ عَلَى كُلٍّ وَأَحْسِنُوا. See, to be a successful husband, I'm not speaking from experience here, it's for you to appease your wife in all states and be good to them. Again, from the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, it's attributed, the statement says, مَنِ اتَّخَذَ زَوْجَةً, a person who accepts the proposal that is made, فَلْيُكْرِمْهَا. It is upon him to honor her, to appease her, to provide for her, to make her feel comfortable. So there are three things a lot of times we see in riwayat that say a man should provide for his family, for his spouse, and it'll lead to a successful life. إِنَّ الْمَرْءَ يَحْتَاجُ فِي مَنْزِلِهِ وَعِيَالِهِ إِلَى ثلاث خلال يتكفلها وإن لم يكن في تبعه ذلك. There's three things you need to be successful in your domestic life. And if you have these things, it's good. And even if it's not a part of your personality, this is not who you are naturally, it doesn't come naturally to you, still you should kind of burden yourself with this because the success will be found in that. First, mu'asharatun jamila. A good behavior, a good mannerisms. This is where I struggle. I'm smiling here with you, but if you upset me, maybe I'll be patient a little bit. After a while, the akhlaq will change. So there has to be a good mu'ashara, good sort of mannerisms and behaviors amongst each other. We have to task ourselves sometimes, especially because we engage with a lot of stressful things outside of the house. It's really important for us, as much as we can, to limit them and not bring the toxicity into the house. You can bring the stress that you have, and let your wife help you kind of massage it out of you. You'll massage it out of your body, massage it out of your soul. But don't bring the toxicity home. So mu'asharatun jamila. Keep your emotions in check. Make sure you communicate properly. Wasa'atun bitaqdir. See, you and I, inshallah, are working hard. There's an elder, you've been working hard for a lifetime. Islam is not opposed to providing to your family, for your family. If anything, it supports it. It says, sa'atun bitaqdir. Provide, sustain your family enough that is possible for you. Don't burn yourself out. For you to provide is a necessity, it's an obligation. But make sure you're providing, if you can control it, should not be at the cost of the relationship that you have with your family. Now, we may have certain portions in our lifetime where we have to work harder, we have to hustle, maybe we have to work, instead of 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, 20 hours a day, whatever. But the whole life should not be revolved around working and just providing. To the extent that you can provide that is sufficient for your family, work and provide and earn, no problem. But keep that balance, and I'll give you a few examples. وَغَيْرَةٌ بِتَحَسُّنٍ. Also, you should have that sense of protection or be zealous against the honor of your family and your spouse. Right? So, protect her public image, protect her sense of chastity or sense of purity. You should also be protective and you should engage in that. It should be important to you. All right. So a few examples that we can take from the lives of the Ahlul Bayt. This sa'atun bitaqdir. Some of the companions came to the home of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. This is narrated in Al-Kafi. It's an interesting riwayah because we don't really see much riwayah from the life of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Generally we hear about the journey leading to Karbala and afterwards, but about his life, domestic affairs. Anyways, it says that a number of companions came to the home of the Imam. فقالوا يا ابن رسول الله نرى في منزلك أشياء نكرهها وإذا في منزله بسط ونمارق. So we come to your house, the Imam has invited them obviously, and they're looking around. When we go to people's homes, we're not, unless, sometimes people are nosy, you're going to rooms they're not allowed in, but we are observant, right? Okay, very nice. The companions said they came to the house of the Imam and said, we're seeing some things that is not becoming of you. Went to the Imam's house, it's a nice house. Right? A nice house. So we see these nice cushions, we see these nice rugs. Now maybe the riwayah is a fabricated weak hadith, I don't know what is that al-Kafi. The moral is important though. فقال عليه السلام إنا نتزوج النساء فنعطيهن مهورهن فيشترين ما شئنا ليس لنا منه شيء. Says when we get married, we provide the mahr, the dowry, right? That amount that we give as a gift of the marriage for our wives. It's theirs now. It belongs to them. They do with it what they like. It is not for us to meddle in those affairs. You provided the mahr, she likes to buy a good carpet, a nice car, a nice curtain, a nice kitchen, whatever. She wants to renovate the whole house. If it's her mahr, it's her mahr. Now, if your rainy day fund is the mahr of your wife, that's already a problem. You shouldn't be making a rainy day fund. You shouldn't, 401k should not be your wife's mahr. That's her money to use it as she pleases to make her life comfortable. Imam said the same thing. Now, if you were going to ask the Imam, maybe the Imam would not buy this type of a cushion, would not buy this type of a rug, would not buy this type of a car. But it's not for him to kind of like impose upon the wife what should and shouldn't happen. So that's one thing, that designation. What's hers is hers. And especially if it's a part of the mahr, it's a gift. Let her enjoy that. Again, one of the examples from ulama, marhum Aghay Mirza Jawad Aghay Tehrani, great ulama, again, one of the practitioners of Islam in our contemporary time. Again, they spoke to him and he gave a very interesting anecdote about his life. He said that, well, I was a student, a seminarian, and live a simple life. So when we got married, we lived a student's life. We lived a talaba's life, a seminarian's life. And a seminarian's life basically means that, hand to mouth, right? So you'll have a couch, but it may not be the best couch. You may have a car, it's just going to be a car. It's not going to be this car or that car. You're going to have, curtains, but it's going to. So he said our home was kind of like that. And I'm paraphrasing, a little mix and match, right? Couch from one company, one color, table another color, the bed one color. It doesn't look that nice. But sometimes for us men, it doesn't matter. We're concerned with the function. Can I sit on it? Yes. Can I sleep on it? Yes. So he said we were kind of living like that within our means. And my wife didn't say anything, at least in this account. She said, my wife didn't say anything. I noticed, though, when we had people over, and especially her relatives, she came from a respectable family. And when generally, when I want to say respectable family means that they probably came from a well-to-do family. So she came from a well-to-do family. When her family came over, her relatives came over, whatever, they looked around. And through the looks that they were giving, it dawned upon me that this is probably bothering her. She's not saying anything to me. We're not having fights. What's wrong with you? You've totally embarrassed me with this, that. But I picked up on it. Alhamdulillah, he was observant at least. So he said, once I saw that happen, I knew that we had to make a change. Now, he didn't go buy all these expensive things, but he said we came to find some sort of, we brought some sort of an interior designer or something like that helped the home have a basic, a look, a feel. So I did that, even though it was a pressure to him. Maybe he didn't want to do it himself, but it's to accommodate the family. Again, another example in the physical appearance. This is another riwayah coming from Al-Kafi. Ashab came to, if I'm not mistaken, Imam al-Rida alayhi salatu wasalam. But in any case, came to one of the Imams. I should be careful. It's not iftar yet. False attribution is going to make mess things up. One of the things that will invalidate your fast is if you give false attribution to the imams. You got to be careful. Anyways, came to one of the imams and he said that I've noticed that you've colored the beard. Now, if you see in coloring the beard, a lot of times they do what? They do like Hana, right? Burgundy colored, nice. Okay. So, Imam, what's going on here? You're coloring the beard? And he says, yes. He says, I did this because it is, again, incumbent upon the husband to prepare himself in a way that is pleasing to his family, to his spouse. So if the spouse likes for beard, bismillah. Maybe not all the time. Every once in a while, if you want to make her happy, you want to surprise her, the beard, no problem. If you like your hair to be combed a particular way, so long as it's not like a really weird labas shuhra or something like that that's Islamically problematic, no problem. She likes the side part this way, comb it this way. She likes to comb that way, comb it that way. She likes to wear certain clothes, wear those clothes. Again, even when it comes to physical appearance, she likes you to wear this kind of, cologne, wear it. In accommodating the family, even small things like this go a long way in ensuring that when the bumps do come in life, that at least we've shown an effort to work with one another in these small things. And we think these are trivial things. It's not a big deal. What is this? Who cares? I wear this shirt, I wear that shirt. I wear this cologne, I wear that cologne. I present myself this way or that way. But if it's important to your family, if it's important to your spouse, you should pay attention to it. Two examples I'll give and we'll end with this. Allama Tawatawi, we know, right? Allama Tawatawi, rahmatullah alayh. Not just the author of Al-Mizan, he was one of the great revivers of Islamic scholarship and also the practice of Islam. He spoke very highly of his wife. And when his wife passed away, he grieved for her. And it was apparent to the way that his students would observe him grieving for her, and they would come and kind of try to console him, but also say, Allama, you're supposed to be teaching us how to be patient and persevere and have sabr and all these things. What's going on here? So Allama says, I'm not crying because she's passed away. He says, death is a certainty. It's a haqq. It's going to happen. But I'm really just grieving because of the kindness that she showed me throughout my life. This woman was, at my service. And what does that mean? He says, I worked in the home mostly. Yeah, I was a teacher, I was researching, I was writing books. Always she was available for anything that I needed. She made it available to the point that even the tea that I needed to operate, so we drink coffee, the coffee that I needed on an hourly or bi-hourly basis, she would make it ready for us. Always come and put it and go her affairs. And because of that, the products that I have, they belong to her as well. I am indebted to her because of the service that she provided. Unsung hero, right? Imam Khomeini, rahmatullah, same way. And the accounts that his wife gives after his death says that, his behavior in the home was in a way that he could never stand seeing me work. If I was in the house and I was cleaning up, I was brooming, he would tell me, stop doing it, don't do it. He would do it himself. Even when they would enter a room, he wouldn't tell his wife, can you please close the door behind me? Or act in a way that to tell her, close the door behind me. If you keep walking and you don't pay attention, you close the door. Even to that effect, even the chai that he wanted, he would go and make the chai for himself. And the basic point is this: it doesn't mean you should become independent and act like you don't need your wives or your spouses. But the basic thing is that to show that respect, to show that accommodation, and show the value that they play in your life. The small things, be spontaneous. In this culture, they call it be romantic. Be spontaneous. Show that affection. And use the month of Ramadan as an opportunity to do that. In the spirituality that you're doing, let not you just show your love and affection to Allah. Channel some of that to your spouses, inshallah, for a successful life. Allahumma ameen. Allah, we ask you to make of those spouses that, inshallah, they characterize all the instructions of this dua. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi tayyibin at-tahirin. Afwan, my apologies.
That's okay, no problem.
Let's get this out of here.
Quickly, please recite a Surah Fatiha for the following Mu'mineen and Mu'minat: Sayyid Ahmad Hussain, Sayyid Abul Qasim Baqir, Zahra Begum, Abidun Nisa Begum, Durdana Begum, Zahida Begum, Aliya Begum, Masood Hassan, Fatima Begum, and Maqbool Hussain. Please recite a Surah Fatiha for them. Bismillah. Bismillah. We'll go ahead and start the azan. In the meantime, please, just a reminder, make sure that those who have sponsored the iftar, along with the food, please do bring the paper supplies and the water and the milk and the tea. And make sure that please, when you do not waste food. And